Hi, I'm certified sommelier Beverly Crandon, and welcome to another episode of The Wine Down, where we talk about all things wine and make it highly, highly approachable. Today on The Wine Down, it's a good one. I'm going to walk you through how to create your very first wine rack, your 8-bottle wine rack, all the essentials, the things you need to get started. You guys, you don't need a wine cellar, you don't need 50 bottles at home, and you definitely don't need to spend a fortune. What you need are 8 bottles. 8 bottles that mean you'll never be caught off guard again. You know, you've got that last minute guest that drops in, you've got a bottle for that. It's date night, you got a bottle for that. It's a celebration, you got someone to pop for that. It's Tuesday, and that Tuesday, it requires a glass of red wine at the end of work. Don't judge. We've all been there. You got a bottle for that. Listen, by the time we're finished with this video, you will understand what the 8 essentials are to get your home wine rack up and running. And you'll understand not only what the wines are, but the job each wine plays and why it earns a spot in your wine rack. Here's a common mistake that people make when they start to buy wine. They find one wine that they really, really love. Let's just say it's a big Cabernet, right? And they buy 8 of those. They're like, I really love this wine. I'm gonna buy 8 of these and keep these at home. But what happens when you have that friend that pops in and they don't drink red wine? We all know we have one of those in our lives. What happens when it's 30 degrees outside like it is today? And I don't want to have your big Cabernet on that patio. So, you guys, when you're starting your wine rack, it is not about collecting your favorites. You can do that when you expand and now you have that big cellar. It is about having range. Having range in your wine on your wine rack means you will never be caught off guard for whatever life is going to throw at you. Okay? So let's just jump right into the 8 bottles. Are you ready? Let's get to bottle number 1. All right, wine 1, the first wine on your wine rack, it's going to be what I call your house red, okay? This is your everyday red wine. It's the one that you open up in the middle of the week. It's the one that you open up when someone pops by and you don't quite know what they drink, but this red wine, its whole job is to be easy to love. These are going to be wines that are going to be smooth on the palate, great fruit structure on the palate, very bright, easy to drink. When I'm looking at my house reds, I'm looking for things like Grenache, Cinsault from the south of France. I'm looking at Gamay. I'm looking at Chilean Carmenere, right? So those things are very round and smooth, very easy to drink. You could have it with food or you could have it with conversation. Your house red, I would say, and this is Canadian pricing, your house red, it'll be sub 20, sub 22, very easy. A way to test if it's the right wine for that slot. Someone comes over and they don't really know much about wine or what they like, and you pour them this wine and you watch them devour it instantly. They love it. It's easy. No fuss, no notes, no explaining. It's just easy to drink. So your house red, your everyday red wine, that's your first wine in your wine rack. And again, sub 20, sub 22 in terms of price. Slot number 2 on the wine rack. What's going to fill it? Let me tell you, it's going to be your house white. So you already have your house red. Now you have your house white. We're looking for things that are crisp, bright, great for summer catch-ups, great for just chill hanging out in your home. Very easy to drink, lovely. We don't want anything that's, overly oaked. We don't want that heavy kind of wine just yet. We want it to be bright, light. Great acidity. Classic calls for this category are Pinot Grigio, Sauvignon Blanc, Alvarinho as well. Very bright in acidity, very easy to drink, no fuss, no muss. That is your house white. For those wines, you're looking at sub $20 for those wines. All right, so the first two wines that we talked about, your house red, your house white, honestly, those are going to be your workhorses on your wine rack. They will cover 60% of your needs, okay? Now, where the other 6 come in that we're going to talk about, that's where you start to see the range. Okay, now on to the wine that takes the 3rd spot in your wine rack or on your wine rack. And this is going to be your food pairing workhorse, okay? This is going to be your white wine that you use for food pairing. Anytime there's food, you're bringing out this white wine. Here you're gonna want something that's got really great acidity because we're pairing it with food, but a really great showing of fruit too on the palate. The combination of those two things makes any dish that has a bit of character to it. So I'm talking like your overly bitter dishes. You all know I love bitter melon, Karila, one of my favorites. I'm talking your salty dishes. I'm talking dishes with a bit of spice. That combination of high acid, grapefruit structure on the palate, it's a dry wine. I'm not talking off dry wine. That's going to be your moneymaker. For me, when I'm looking for those types of wines, Riesling is one of my surefires. Gruner Veltliner is another one that I look at. And oh my gosh, you guys, a white chocolate from Basque County, beautiful. Those wines with food, amazing. Here, you're probably looking to spend about $25 is what I would think for a wine like this that you're going to pair with your food. You might be able to play around and find some others that are lower in price. But yeah, that's what I would do. If you, as we talk about Riesling, Riesling is a grape that's, I think, wildly misunderstood, unfortunately. Not all Rieslings are going to be sweet. And I did do like a myth-busting Riesling video. I'll link to it below so you can learn more about that. As a matter of fact, we talk about Riesling and we talk about spicy dishes. We also did a video where we tried 3 different types of curries with a bunch of different wines to find what worked. And that dry Riesling, amazing, quite lovely. So wine number 3, or the wine that takes your 3rd spot in your wine rack, is that food-friendly white wine. All right, the wine that's going to take slot number 4 in your wine rack is a big, bold red. Completely opposite from your house red that you had earlier in spot 1 on your wine rack. This is going to be a very grippy, bold, very tannic, a really big red wine. This is going to be the kind of wine you want to look for when there's steak or other fatty things on your plate, slow roasted stews, or it's January and it's 4:30 and it's dark out. Don't judge. We've all been there. So for your big, bold red wines, Cabernet Sauvignon clearly comes to mind very quickly. But so too does Syrah and Shiraz. I've played around with Syrah being my big, bold red once I found one that I really liked. Another one that you should look out for is Mourvèdre, which comes from Spain or France. Lovely, big, bold, great structure, fantastic with fatty dishes. Now listen, the reason why this type of wine deserves a spot on your wine rack is because your house red would be steamrolled by these richer, fattier dishes. Big dishes like that need big wine. They need wine that can stand up to them. And so that's why this big, bold red needs to be on your wine rack. In terms of what to look to spend, here, you're going to spend a little bit more than the wines we've talked about. So I would say between 30 to 40, you can find something decent. The more you experiment with this category of wine, the more you will find yourself trying to get some more of the more luxurious type big bold reds, and that's fantastic. Your taste buds are going to evolve, and so I think this wine slot for sure will also evolve. Slot number 5 on your wine rack is reserved for sparkling wine. Every wine rack should have sparkling wine. As a matter of fact, every household should have sparkling wine within it. Sparkling wine is not just for celebration. Sparkling wine is actually one of the most food-friendly, versatile wines that we have in our arsenal. When I talk about sparkling wine, I'm not asking you to go out there and drop champagne money, okay? Because we can't find things like Cava, Corpinat, Cremants from France, and other well-made traditional method sparkling wine from other areas. For example, in Ontario, we make tremendous sparkling wine done traditional method with persistent mousse, great bubbles, just really good quality sparkling wine. All of the wines that I mentioned, the champagne alternatives, are all made the same way champagne is made. So that's traditional method with second fermentation happening in bottle. So here you're getting really well-made quality wines and at a fraction of the cost. In my market, I can find Cremants for $27, and I can find some really beautiful sparkling wines made traditional method also under $40. So now the price is becoming more approachable and in range, right? I don't have to wait for that special occasion to pop this cork. And this is going to give you a chance to do some of the fun food pairings. Like, don't take my word for it, but I'm telling you, the acidity and the bubbles, those two things combined help to cut through some of your fattier dishes, your fried dishes. So think pizza, think fried chicken. One of my favorite pairings, sparkling wine and potato chips. It's a singer when it comes to food and wine pairing. As you're building out your wine rack and you're wanting to know more about sparkling wines, I've done a deep dive on that, and I'll also link to sparkling wines in the comments down here. Slot number 6 on your wine rack is reserved for your dry rosé. Listen, rosé is something that I feel you can drink all year round, and I do. But it is definitely something people grab for, when it's warmer weather, picnics, patio hangs, that type of thing. It's also a great gift if you're going somewhere as a hostess gift. It's very hard to get rosé wrong in terms of buying it as a gift. So I'm talking about making sure you're getting a dry rosé. And if you're curious about how one determines if it's dry, take a look at the ABV, the alcohol by volume, on the wine. If the ABV is very low, there's a good chance that that's going to be a sweet wine. So like under 11%, it's probably going to have some residual sugar on that. And why that is to retain sugar, because sugar ferments into alcohol, right? So that's where you're going to get that higher ABV, because the fermentation, sugar turned into alcohol. So when people are making sweeter wines, they will halt fermentation to keep that residual sugar. So the sugars never get a chance to ferment into its full alcohol self. So if you're wondering, is my rosé going to be dry? And the majority of them are dry. It's not white Zinfandel. But if you're wondering, check the ABV. Rosé is great. Everybody loves it. It chills fast, and it is incredibly friendly with a whole array of dishes, seafoods, chickens, red meats, all of that. So your rosé, always on your wine rack, spot number 6, held for your rosé. All right, we made it to slot 7 of your wine rack. And this is going to be an interesting one, right? This is I call this the Impress You bottle, okay? So we're gonna slow down here because this is going to be different than anything else that's on your rack so far. This is that bottle that you don't open up on a random Tuesday, right? This is your reserve wine. This is the bottle you pull out when it's a special occasion. Your boss is coming over and you want to quietly impress with your taste. This is that wine. This is what you will pull out. Now you need to expect to pay more money here, right? Because this is your Impress You wine. In my market in Canada, it's a minimum of $50 as what you would have to look to spend. And like that big red category that we talked about earlier, this is a category that the more you taste wine and the more stuff you try, you may want to start to experiment with elevating what you find is going to be your Impress You wine. So start somewhere and then elevate. For me, grapes that I look to when I'm looking for that Impress You label, and things I don't mind spending more money for, a lovely bottle of Barolo, one of my favorites, Brunello, a lovely Priorat, Northern Rhone Syrah, Burgundy, red Burgundy, Bordeaux. So those are a few. I mean, the list goes on of things that you can look for, but this is your slot 7. This is your reserve wine. You're not pulling it out all the time. It's not for a Tuesday. It's for a special occasion, guaranteed to impress anybody who sees it. You've got one spot left on your wine rack. You're curious what that wine's going to be? Here is the wild card. I want you to have a dessert wine on your wine rack, okay? I'm talking port, Tokai, some late harvest something. Here's why it needs to have a place on your wine rack. You don't even necessarily need to have it with dessert. I mean, you can if that's your thing, but you can just also have it with conversation at the end of a meal that you've had at your house. I love having my dessert wines with hard cheeses, really pungent cheeses, blue cheeses. Fantastic way to end a meal. And it does hold a place in your wine rack. Here's the other thing about your fortified wines, your sweet wines, is that they generally have more alcohol, more sugar. And so once you open it and you put it in the fridge, it will last. It's one of the ones that will last you for weeks when you open it. So it's forgiving. So if you just feel like having a little bit of Tokai at the end of dinner, go ahead, put it in the fridge. It'll be there for you. It's not gonna go bad. So that's your 8 bottles. But before I send you away, let's talk about some practical things around your wine rack. You want to make sure your wine rack is in a cool, darker spot of your home, not the kitchen. I know kitchen is like a natural gravitation because you're like, I have wine with my food. Get it? But you want the wines to be away from direct light and heat, because those are the 2 worst things for wine. So have your wine rack in a closet, have it, in a hallway, anything away from the stove, away from the kitchen where it's going to provide a lot of heat. That's the ideal. The other thing too is when you're storing your wines, especially the ones with corks in them, you want to store them on their side. So the cork is always getting moisture and will not dry out. If a cork dries out, it crumbles, it's harder to take out. So like this is how you want to store it. And again, please, no direct heat, no direct sunlight, not in the kitchen. Find some place that's a little cooler and away from heat, and your wines will thank you for it. So there you have it. That's the wine down, where we just created your starter wine rack that holds 8 bottles, right? And we did all of that for under $200, okay? So let's recap. So wine 1 is your house red, the red that's easy to love. Wine 2 is your house white, bright, lifted, easy with conversation. Wine 3, that is your food pairing workhorse, your white wine that you pull out whenever there's food around. Wine 4, that's your big red, going with big dishes, right? Bold, grippy, those reds. Wine 5, bubbles. Every wine rack should have bubbles. Every house should have bubbles. Wine 6, that is your dry rosé. Wine 7, that's your impress you bottle. Don't open up that on a Tuesday. That's for special occasions. Wine 8, your sweet wine. I'm curious, which of these are you going to go and add to your wine rack? Or are you adding a 9th? And what's that 9th bottle going to be? Let me know. I'm super curious. Put it in the comments below. Listen, if you found this useful, please subscribe. Love to have you here more often. With that being said, cheers, happy exploration, and I'll see you on the next Wine Down. Your friendly sommelier, Beverly Crandon.